The reality. Whose reality? The colors of fall as diversified as is reality in Woodstock, New York. Woodstock, now American folklore. Ask Woodstockers about the latest legend.
I think the festival at Bethel was just the overflowering of what was started here by the people that ultimately resulted in the Art Students League coming here.
Father Francis, Archbishop of the Polish Catholic Church, pastor of Woodstock's Church of Christ on the Mount.
It had something to do with Woodstock because it was definitely it was a group from the other mountain here.
The Woodstock Music and Art Fair, an Aquarian exposition, held in Bethel, New York, 60 miles distant from Woodstock in August of '69, was born in Woodstock. Woodstock attained a reputation of global proportion. Artie Traum.
It was a rip-off and a hype, and maybe Woodstock was the third largest city in the country at the time, but who wants to be part of the third largest city in the country, you know, and have those problems?
The legend. But what of Woodstock, the art colony? Founded in the early 1900s by Ralph Whitehead, an Englishman, and Hervey White, the Midwesterner. In 1904, New York's Art Students League looked to establish a summer school. Robert Eric Carlson recalls.
I remember my father, who was a landscape painter, scratchy beard, and the smell of paint. He always smelled of paint. And a very authoritative gentleman. They were looking around for a place to have the summer school for the Art Students League. And they must have sent Dad out as a scout or something, because Woodstock was discovered at that point. And they established the summer school for the Art Students League. The first Art Students League building, studio where they went to paint inside, was down in the village where it's the Christian Science Church today. Still stands, still looks exactly the same, except that there are more trees grown up around.
John Pike, famed Woodstock watercolorist, tells of Ralph Whitehead's original concept.
Ralph Whitehead came here from England to, in rebellion, actually, against the Industrial Revolution, because he was attempting to create Renaissance men, and he was a very wealthy man, and his fear of man losing his sense of the crafts, of working with his hands rather than everything punched out of cold steel in a pressure mill. That's what he was against, and he attempted to recreate this. It was not a great roaring success.
Crafts remained at Birdcliff, high above the village under the aegis of Ralph Whitehead. Painters, musicians, sculptors sought a less restraining environment across the valley.
And then across in what we now call the Maverick was Hervey White, who was perhaps the great saint. I think he was the original hippie, really. He was half man, half goat, and half god. He looked like Pam, but a more lovable, sincere man never lived. So Hervey took the Mavericks into his bosom and let them buy land for nothing across there. He erected a theater out of slab sides and old trees, and it became really quite famous.
The Mavericks had to drill a 1,000-foot deep well. The first of many Maverick festivals was held in 1916. It paid for the well.
Once a year in the summer, they held what was called the Maverick Festival. Now that was a party. Everybody went there in costume and went there just prepared to spend the whole day. And they'd visit with each other and marvel at everybody's costumes. and then start cooking supper. And it used to get pretty noisy. At the end of the evening, there was a play in the outdoor theater. It was like the old Greek theater. But the Maverick Festival was the highlight of parties. It just seemed like all of Woodstock was there.
The Maverick Theater. Here, a young Edward G. Robinson, Henry Fonda, Helen Hayes, Lee Marvin, dreamt of and worked toward stardom. Eva Le Gallienne, the Circle in the Square Theater, spent creative summer seasons. Howard Koch, Academy Award winner, screenwriter of Casablanca and The Fox, wrote original plays.
I came to Woodstock to spend the summer and do some writing, and I lived in the Maverick. And then the benevolent father of the Maverick was Hervey White, with whom I was very fond. Hervey was a philosophical character that he didn't care much whether you paid the rent or not. While there, the Maverick Playhouse was in operation, and they had a little company there, but the manager of the company had gone off and left the cast stranded. Hervey came to me and said, you've been writing a play, why don't you let them use the play? They can't afford royalties. So the play was done in the Maverick Theater, and it began to pay their way and enable them to stay the season and for Hervey to have the theater a going concern.
1915 saw the first chamber music festival in the then new Maverick Concert Hall. Now in its 57th year, the Maverick Concerts are the oldest continuous chamber music series in the United States. The graphic arts and a revitalized crafts industry maintain their place as a vital part of Woodstock.
Qui n'êtes pas né pour être reconnu, qui n'êtes apprécié qu'une fois bien pendu, vous les peintres, combien donc êtes-vous à cueillir des lauriers, troupeau de 100 sous qui souvent vous noyez dans l'absinthe.
Music has become the dominant art form in the community at the present time. I don't think anybody would question that.
Robert Angelock, Woodstock artist.
Although it may not be as apparent to the eye, it is apparent to the rest of the world anyway, by the number of recording artists and musicians who live up here. I suppose Bob Dylan and Grossman and the rest of them made more of an impact than any single person has here before.
Bob Dylan, Van Morrison, Peter Yarrow, John Sebastian, Fred Neil, the band, the Butterfield Blues Band, Mothers of Invention, Art and Happy Traum, and many others have lived or are residing in Woodstock. Why?
We moved up before the Woodstock Festival, which made it that we moved up not for the scene that was here, the music scene that was here, but mainly because it was an intelligent community, seemed to be well run and pleasant place to live.
In Woodstock, you have a chance of meeting some of the major producers.
Bill McCord, Woodstock musician.
If you don't get that much together, though, you find yourself playing these jobs around here for, you know, $20 a night a man, and that might net you all of $40 for the weekend, which is actually pretty unbelievable.
All along, so I dream, all along, come on in.
It's a colorful town. It's an interesting town. A lot of people into many different things. Mysticism, establishment, music, dance, ballet. It's got more levels, I think, than any town that I've ever come across before.
It's a tourist community. It's not a people community.
Tourists, old-timers, writers, filmmakers, professionals, industry executives, shopkeepers, and farmers all add to Woodstock's richness and to Woodstock's enigma. Community-supported family was formed of necessity to help meet many of the problems that diversity and change bring about.
Family is a 24-hour crisis service. It's basically a communication service with a 24-hour hotline open to people in trouble. Medical, camping, rides, general referral, legal, psychological, ecology, senior citizens program, draft counseling. That's like categories. Then you get beyond the categories, just dealing one-to-one with people, helping them find themselves in the community. Our biggest stock we deal with is people.
Woodstock Nation is just 2 words in Woodstock, New York. But Woodstock Community is the phrase that unifies this little entity of 5,000 individuals. Woodstock the Reality. Whose reality?
People, hear me now. I am here to put you down for the things that you might have done, but you never did. Woodstock Nation, come around. United Nations can't be found. If you see the light before you, then you feel love everywhere. But you know that's not what you're putting out, and there ain't no doubt